Hi, today I want to talk about what you look for when looking for bonsai material at a local nursery. Um, Local nurseries are good. For one, they usually sell things that grow in your plant zone. So you have to be watchful if you buy something that's an unusual plant and it's not something they usually carry. Sometimes it's not really, it's something that meant to be more tropical or such, and might not be good material for bonsai. So remember, even when you consider plant zone, when you plant something in the yard, in the ground, it's more protected than when it's in a bonsai pot. So even if it's a tree for your plant zone, you still need to protect those trees as bonsai with harsh winter and frosts and ice and such. So keep that in mind. Materials that you look for in a nursery, it's best to look for something that people grow as shrubs and something that gets pruned and buds back. Examples I might have as bonsai. Here's an azalea, which I'm going to come back to and show you specifically the things you look for when you're looking at specific material in a nursery. This is an ilex shillings. It's a common thing in the nurseries down here in Florida. I'm in Central West Florida. This is one of my bonsai. Crepe myrtles down here. Up north, there's Japanese quince, Chinese quince. They grow here also. Luckily, I'm in 9B zone, so I can still grow many of the northern plants along with some subtropical type varieties. Trying to think of what else you'd get in a nursery. Here's a hornbeam. Of course, you might, if you bought it as a tree in a nursery and you cut it way back, you can do something like this. But you can often start with smaller material that you can work on, make a small tree. I think I have a small tree over here. It's lost some leaves, so it's not looking its best for you. But there's a hornbeam, small hornbeam that I have here. Brush cherry. That's just, a lot of these trees are more in the pre-bonsai state, not quite finished trees. Here in Florida, we really love the Chinese sweet plum. But there's different varieties of crepe myrtle, different size leaves. Here's blueberry. You can grow blueberry. You can even grow ones and they bud back and do great, and then you can eat off of them also. There's a large crepe myrtle cut back from a much larger tree at one point. But we're going to get back to this azalea. Azaleas can be great material. A couple things to consider specifically with azaleas is that they often, when you look in nursery at azaleas, often they come out as clumps from the ground. You dig down in, you'll see that you don't have a nice splay of roots. You'll get an odd root or something. So while the top might look really nice and you think, oh, that looks like it could be good bonsai, make sure you always do the thing I'm about to show you. In bonsai, we call this the bonsai salute. When you're in a nursery and you go down and you see somebody put their hand in like they're saluting and then clearing away from the trunk to see what's really there. Now, when you're in a nursery, I also suggest don't mention you're looking for stuff for bonsai, because often, if they don't have prices already marked on the material, your price might go up. So, because they assume, bonsai, that's, they can get a lot more money. But you can see here the base I have on this tree, and this was an unusual find. So for the 30 bucks for this somewhat, mid-sized, larger azalea, I grabbed it right up. I didn't hesitate, because you don't usually find this. You can see all the way around the base. You clear all this soil away, and look what I discovered. A nice flare on that base. And, any bonsai person that's experienced, that's been out, would look at this and want to grab this up. So that's the first thing you look for when you find that. That's a good quality. But you look for that, it's not just azaleas and whatever material you're looking for. Often much of the value of a bonsai is at the base of the tree, the way it flares. They call that the nabari. And It really makes a big difference on your trees. The next thing you look for is that you have lots of branching to choose from. As you can see, this tree definitely does have that. So I can come up with a design, and it gives me a lot of choices of what I can do. Yes, some of the branches are really thick, but for the most part, I'm probably going to incorporate most of that, except for this bottom one, which I'll cut off, and I can hide the scar on that. But you know, the issue is if I do cut off these larger ones and taper right away, right down, I'll have large scars that could take a while to heal, and that can be more difficult on azalea than some other types of material. If it was a crepe myrtle, I wouldn't think twice. They heal very quick. They'd heal over. This wouldn't even be considered that large of a cut on a crepe myrtle. So you know, a lot of these, what you can do to a tree right away and how it recovers is dependent on the type of material. Also with azaleas specifically, you do a lot of clip and grow. You do some wiring on the tender material, but even the tender material, once it's woody, it very easily snaps. So you wire when it's very young, and you do very gentle movement with the wire and do it slowly over time if you don't want to lose the branch. And then make sure you get the wire off in time before it grows in or anything. They're very brittle, so a lot of it you end up doing, once you get the basic design down, you try to do keep up on it and do clip and grow for the most part. But yeah, you still do some wiring. But yeah, a lot of choices here. Another thing, azaleas, there's a lot of different varieties with different size leaves. This variety's leaves are pretty small, which makes it even more desirable. The flowers are somewhat large. I saw one flower when I bought this. I don't see it now. It must have fallen off. It's the wrong time of year for flowering, so you're not really going to see that right now. But even when they're full of flowers, and even though they're large flowers, that all you see is the flowers, and that can be very beautiful too, especially if you see a nice base like that on a tree full of flowers. It can really be impressive. But like I said, you know, I was showing you the Ilex Schillings holly. Down here, a lot of people do podocarpus. Up north, you can do boxwoods. Down here, there's boxwoods too, but there's different varieties. There's some boxwoods are more tropical than and some are more for northern areas. Yews down here. Let's see, I think I have one over here. I'll show you. Taxus variety of plants. We're too far south for that, but I discovered something called a cephalotaxus, which is really similar. And it looks very much like the yews you see up north. And that can handle down to zone 10. So I'm experimenting with that for now. You see here some maples. That's the Florida red maple. These are somewhat large, but you can reduce them down with defoliation techniques and such. But yeah, back to the nursery material. So yes, this has all the qualities. Has the small leaves, the many branching, the nice flare at the base. Things to consider in terms of working on an azalea is usually with flowering, you often see when you read bonsai books, you know, you prune after they flower, but it really depends on the type of tree. Many trees flower very early, such as like Japanese quince or certain cherry trees and such. So when they flower late winter, you know, of course you can wait till after they flower. Usually you don't want to do aggressive pruning till you're out of the danger of frost anyway. But other trees, like such as this azalea, there's a lot of these azaleas bloom much later. So, you know, especially here in Florida, you know, when it gets to be June and such, it's really not so much spring as it feels more like you're already in the heat of summer. And pruning hard then can be very stressful. So the best thing is actually to prune these, you know, here after the last frost, probably, you know, February and such, mid-February here. Depending on the weather, it can be maybe a little earlier than that or a little later. But that's when I'll do most of the pruning, and I just will forfeit having a year of enjoying a full load of flowers. You know, I might let it, you know, if I didn't, depending on how hard I prune, it might still be something that forms a couple flowers. But it's better to not have the tree too stressed out. You do something aggressive and keep a lot of flowers, especially if you do root work or something. It's too much stress for the plant, and you're going to take this beautiful find and then lose it. So, you know, take your time. One thing with bonsai, it's good to have patience. people that I come across that don't have a lot of patience, I tell them, well, get lots of inexpensive little plants, lots of things you can play with and experiment with, and then when you're nicer materials, just try not to do too much. Be patient with them and do your experimentation on other things. So let me show you in another azalea down here where the base wasn't quite as impressive as that, but on one side the base was interesting. Now this isn't a finished bonsai, which of course there never really is finished because they're growing and you're always working them, but this is still needs a lot of refinement, branch works, a little bit of wiring and pruning, but you can see the roots are good on one side, interesting, but on the back side you can see it didn't have any good roots, so I kind of made it like a hollow effect with a sherry that I need to clean out that comes up the trunk a bit. But it's an interesting, and when it's full of flowers, it's a beautiful bonsai. Okay, so I think that about covers it. I'll see you in my next video.